Hello and welcome to the Philippines. I am taking a motorbike taxi ride. A company called Angkas is one of, I think, about three that are officially sanctioned to do this. I'll give you a little bit of history, a little bit of information, a little bit about my experiences, observations over the last many years using the many Habal Habal services here. Angkas is one of the company, I think Joyride, and another one is Move It. Different companies that have gotten involved in that, officially legal. Anyway, I have read that there are 18 million motorbike owners that charge people to transport them around. And there are obviously then millions of people who use that service daily, and it's a relatively inexpensive. It's more than a jeepney, but less than a taxi generally. And basically there's been, in the last 20 years, there's been about 20 bills that have failed in Congress to legalize these. So the Supreme Court back in 2018 had a restraining order on these companies and said, well, you can't legally operate. You're not paying any taxes, you're not a business, etc., etc. So they shut it down, shut all these services down. In reality, that only lasted a week or two. Now, you didn't see many Angkas drivers out, but all these other motorbike taxi owners, they and their families depend upon that for their income, and their riders depend upon it to get them to where they need to go on a daily basis. So after a week or two after the Supreme Court tried to shut the whole system down, you start seeing them out there again. That's a little handle down there. He said, hold on to that handle down there. Well, that didn't seem like a real good idea. That kind of changed my whole center of gravity, and I didn't feel comfortable with that at all. But so I found a different place to hold on when I felt I needed to hold on. Anyway, the motorbike taxis, reality on the street, they all started back up. And I think a lot of the enforcers, their family members, are using these Habal Habal services and or making money doing that, feeding their families. So there was little enforcement of trying to shut it down, and they came back on the street. And within a month or two, there were thousands of them, perhaps millions of them, back on the road. From what I've read, Angkas started with two co-founders, and they wanted to, number one, help regulate the industry, and also provide some protection for the drivers as well as the passengers, and including some type of insurance and some training, and they do. Angkas has trained, I think, 120,000 drivers in the last number of years. About 70% of them fail, and I think presently they have about 27,000 drivers, and they only have them in Metro Manila and Metro Cebu area at the present time, is my understanding. They do a background check, they do some safety training, they check the bike out for safety. And my experience, I've taken a few Ankases over the years, and this is the first time I've taken one with that barrier between the driver and the passenger, and it just does not seem like a safe thing. And even it was meant to provide some safety from germs, but I think if you understand anything about airflow, I think the airflow is swirling around the back of that thing, and probably throwing more germs back into the passenger's face than if that wasn't there. That's my opinion. And there was an engineering group that also said, I think they didn't think it was safe for a number of different reasons. That is my opinion now. I just read that up in Manila, they're able to get rid of those shields now, dividers, because they're at risk level 1. The lowest level, well, Cebu City still, probably at least until the 15th of March, is risk level 2 still. So he told me they're not able to drop theirs off there. He did. He was more defensive. He drove a little bit, definitely a lot slower than the other drivers. And slow doesn't necessarily mean that you're safer, but he was pretty defensive. And he didn't, like other drivers who go down between these cars on a regular basis, he didn't do any of that. That is my opinion anyway. I've taken a lot of Habal Habal rides, motorbike taxi rides over the years, and the great percentage of them were really pretty safe drivers. Some were faster, but very defensive. I could see that they were being very defensive. There were a few that kind of took a few too many risks, in my opinion. There was a couple that you could tell they weren't real used to. There's the 138 mall downtown. They weren't used to having somebody a back rider because you just felt that they were unsteady, and so you either tell them to be very careful, or get off and pay them and take another ride. This guy sprayed my hands with alcohol before I got on, and sprayed them when I got off. He supplied the helmet. For a while, you had to supply your own helmet. During the lockdowns, these travel lockdowns and everything, they banned all motorbike transportation. Only one person could, only the driver. You couldn't have a passenger at all. And then they started getting more lenient. A married partner living in the same household could ride with the driver. And of course, there's how do you prove that? How do you prove that? And who's going to stop and check everybody? Like I've said a number of times, what you read in the paper and the reality on the street can be completely different. And that's what it was too much of this last crisis here in the Philippines and probably around the world. He quoted me 100 pesos, which is about $2 for this trip. That was fine with me. I think my partner would have insisted on something like 70 pesos probably. She pays a little less than I do. I don't mind that. Taxi would probably be 130, 130, 120, 130, 140, something like that, into the same area. About less than $3 instead. A couple rides in a jeepney to get to the same place, 2 different jeepneys perhaps. There's a monument down there. Someday I'll do a video about that. A couple jeepney rides would probably cost you less than $1, less than 50 pesos. I'm not sure what they're getting right now. I think it's gone up a little bit over the last couple of years. I think many rides used to be, 7 or 8 pesos. I think they've gone up because they had fewer ridership for a lot of these last 2 years when they were allowed to operate. Well, my understanding is they have allowed all the PUVs, the public utility vehicles, to come back into the city and into Cebu province, start operating. So the buses are going to start operating more buses, going to more places more often. And there's a little hand that seemed to throw me off, very uncomfortable trying to grab onto those. I would rather put my hands behind me and grab onto the back of the bike, give me some more stability. They've also allowing a lot more of the jeepneys to come back online. Now, they have been more strict about checking their emissions, because we used to have, these things would go down the road and just belching out black exhaust smoke. And you don't see too much of that. You see a little bit, but not the really, really bad polluting ones anymore. Most of them been tuned up or whatever. Anyway, I am headed down near Plaza Independencia, down by Pier 1, a big passenger pier, downtown area, and Fort San Pedro, down in that area. I'll do another video about that area. For those of you who don't know, I've got over 1,000 videos up, a lot of real estate condo reviews, some subdivision reviews, cost of living reviews, travel reviews, few resort reviews. Not just in Cebu, but over on Bohol. I've been over to Bacolod and Iloilo, as well as Siquijor, Island Siquijor, number of Surigao City, down in Mindanao. So a lot of videos out there, and if you would be so kind, hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down button if you don't like it. That helps with helps support the channel, helps promote the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, think about subscribing as well. Angkas, Joyride, maybe some of the others as well have apps you can download on your phone and then just use it like Grab. Grab is here, Grab car, Grab taxi. Uber is no longer here, but you can use it to call them in and call them into your location to give you a ride wherever you want to go. If we would go straight down there, that's Pier 1 down there where some of the passenger ferries come in, and this is Plaza Independencia. And they've got just off to the left is the fort, San Pedro. And they have a number of events down here. In fact, they had one here, and I'll do some video about that a little bit later. But especially during any holidays, and even they'll have dance groups out there practicing different times. Anyway, thanks for coming along. Stay safe, stay healthy. Hope to see you all here soon. See ya.